Hi, I'm Shari Berkowitz of the Vertical Workshop. Today let's talk about shoulder bridge preparation. I mean, what could one say about it? It's everybody's favorite exercise, or at least it seems to be for most people, except what's really going on in it? Are we really getting gluteus maximus to engage, or is it becoming too much of a lumbar hyperextension and hamstring exercise? So, we've got our clients lying on their back with their feet as close to their seat as they feel comfortable in their hips and knees. And ultimately, it's really going to be about being able to rotate the pelvis. And then their feet are fist width apart and parallel until one day they have the most remarkable open hip flexors and great gluteus maximus, and then they can bring feet together, middle of knee in line with middle of foot. They roll their pelvis and spine up away from the mat. Ideally, we're trying to get hip extension, or at least hip extension as we talk about it in biomechanics, where it's pelvis neutral to the thigh bone basically, as opposed to hip hyperextension in biomechanics, which is your thigh behind the level of your hips. But at least in Pilates and most fitness, we call pelvis in line with thighs, hip extension. And it should be your natural lumbar curve, so it really is pelvis neutral to lumbar spine and thighs in the coronal plane. Now with that, which should be the maximum worker of this hip extension? Gluteus maximus or hamstrings? Gluteus maximus. But how do we get that to happen? By rotating your pelvis. Do the action of posterior tilt to get to neutral. And so with that, if you feel your hamstrings engaging, or your client does, more than gluteus maximus, there's not enough rotation of the pelvis. Your client, which might be yourself, your favorite client, is very possibly releasing hips back a little bit and trying to get hip points high, back up high, but not actually finishing the rotation of the pelvis. Really starting with that and continuing with that, not to end up in posterior tilt, but to end up neutral, which takes a continual action of posterior tilt. That makes gluteus maximus work mightily hard. Now, that's the purpose of this, is strong glute maximus and hamstrings, and elongate or work the elasticity of all of the hip flexors and quadriceps. Now, with that, of course, with the support of your shoulder girdle and your nice neutral neck. Now, with that, if one hamstring starts to go into spasm, what's that about? Oh, it's not that they need more powerhouse or anything like that. They didn't get into glute maximus on that side. So what your client needs to do is deepen low abdominals on that side and rotate that side's pelvis more, using the action of posterior tilt so that it becomes genuinely neutral, and that is maximum gluteus maximus. They don't have to squeeze their buttocks, they have to do the action that gluteus maximus is needed to do. Hamstrings can totally do it, but gluteus maximus is what makes it really happen. So the combination of glute max and hamstrings. So I encourage you to play with that on yourself and with your clients. Are they really rotating their pelvises, getting gluteus maximus to do the primary work, where hamstrings are the secondary work, and rolling up to that natural lumbar curve and neutral pelvis relative to the lumbar curve and that extended hip. So, and then I should add one more thing. If we are cueing our clients come up to a straight line from the shoulder to hip to knee, or knee to hip to shoulder, that is going to often be problematic because they're trying to lift up high for that rather than get that rotation. So it's often what we tell our clients that makes them be able to do the action or not. Come up to a straight line, knee, hip, shoulder, but they can't, so they end up lifting their middle back. And instead, rotate your pelvis only as far as you can still make your great low abdominal connection, some good upper abdominals, and you really feel that it's coming from rotating pubic bone towards the ceiling over your face, sit bones towards the back of your knees. You could really feel that your buttocks have naturally engaged. And it might just be a little bit, and then eventually more and more, to get both the results or the actions of that rotation with gluteus maximus, strengthening hamstring secondary strengtheners, and then hip flexors and quadriceps getting their elongation or stretch. So play with it and give me a holler. Let me know if you have any questions. Thank you.